We continue now at the top of Daf Yud Gimel Amud Aleph in Meseches Sotah. This is Sotah Daf 13a. The Gemara is continuing and describing the prophecy of Miriam. Miriam said, Vomeres, and she said, Asida imi, in the future, my mother, Shetelid ben Shemoshias Yisrael, she's going to give birth to a son that will save Klal Yisrael. Vekevin shenolad Moshe, and when Moshe was born, Nismali kol abayis kula or, the entire house was filled with light. Amar Avia v'noshgal Rosha, so Miriam's father got up and he kissed her on her head. Amar lo, he said to her, Biti, my daughter, Niskayma nuvuasech, your prophecy has been fulfilled. V'kevan shetiluhu lior, but when they put him into the river, Amar Avia v'tovchal Rosha, so her father got up and he tapped her on the head. Amar lo, he said to her, Biti heicha nuvuasech, he said, my daughter, where is your nevuah? Where's your prophecy? And that's what the pasuk means when it says, V'teisat savachusa meirochok l'deya mayosa lo. It says his sister stood from a distance to know what happened with him, and what that means to say is leida mayehei besof nevuasa. What she wanted to know was to know what would happen in terms of the end of her prophecy. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said Yosef zacha v'chulu, again Yosef, so he took care of the burial of his father Yaakov, and therefore the midah keneged midah was he was rewarded. Moshe Rabbeinu took care of his burial. And the Gemara says, Ma'ishna me'ikar dechsiv. What's the difference that at the beginning the pasuk writes Vayal Yosef v'likbor es aviv Vayalu ito kalavde paro v'gomer. So it talks about the fact that first it mentions the servants of Paro. They went up with Yosef to bury Yaakov, Yosef's father. V'hadar v'chol beis Yosef v'yechav u'beis avim. And then afterwards, only afterwards, the pasuk mentions the fact that his brothers came in the house of his father, meaning to say, it mentions Yosef's family after it mentions the Avdei Paro. And what's the difference at the end? The chsiv that the pasuk writes, Vayoshav Yosef Mitzrayim hu ve'echav. It says that Yosef returned to Mitzrayim, he and his brothers. V'hadar v'chol ha'olim ito likbor esavim. And only afterwards it says, and all the rest that went up with him in order to bury his fathers. Why over there is the order reversed? And the Gemara answers, Amar Rabbi Yochanan says, B'tchilat shelo ro b'chvoden shel Yisrael. In the beginning, before they saw the honor of Yisrael, it's referring to the honor of Yaakov when he's being buried, lo na'agu behen kavod. So they didn't act with them, they didn't act towards them with honor. So therefore they didn't allow them to go first. But at the end, shero b'chvoden, when they saw the honor, so na'agu behen kavod. So they treated them with respect. And what was the respect? What's the kavod we're referring to? As the pasuk writes, Vayavo ad goren ha'atad. It said they came to the threshing floor of the thorns. And so the Gemara asks, V'chi goren yesh lo la'atad, is there going to be a threshing floor for thorns? Thorns are not the kind of things that you harvest. Amar Rabbi Avo says, Melamed shekifu ksarim la'arona shel Yosef, la'arona shel Yaakov. What it teaches us is that they surrounded the aron of Yaakov, the coffin of Yaakov, with kesarim, with crowns. That was the honor, the respect that they paid to Yaakov. Kagoren zeh, it's like a threshing floor. Shemakifim lo atad, they surrounded with thorn bushes as a measure of security. And the Gemara elaborates, Shabo b'nei Esav u'v'nei Yishmael u'v'nei Keturah, that the children of Esav and the children of Yishmael and the children of Keturah, they came. And what happened was, Tana kulam lemilchama bo, was taught that originally they came really for war, they wanted to fight. Kevan sharo kisra shel Yosef tali barona shel Yaakov, but when they saw the crown of Yosef hanging on the coffin of Yaakov, nadlu kulon kisra, and they all took off their crowns, v'tolam barona shel Yaakov, and they hung their crowns on the coffin of Yaakov. Tana it's taught, shloshim v'shisha ksarim nislu barona shel Yaakov. There were 36 crowns that were hung from the arm of Yaakov, so that was the honor, the respect that they saw that was being paid to Yaakov. And the Gemara continues, the pasuk says, Vayispedu sham misbeid gadol v'chavin mod. It says there was a great eulogizing over there. And the Gemara says, Tana was taught, afilu susim v'afilu chamorim. Even horses and even donkeys, they participated in the mourning, and the Mefarshim give various explanations what that means. And the Gemara continues, Kevan shigu l'maris hamachpelah. When they reached the maris hamachpelah, asa Esav kama akev. Esav came and he was trying to hold them back. Amar Lahen, he said to them, Mamre Kiryas Ha'arba hi Chevron, this area is called Kiryas Ha'arba. V'yamar Rabbi Yitzchak, and Rabbi Yitzchak says, Kiryas Arba, Arba Zugos Hayu. Why is it called Kiryas Arba? Because there are 4 couples that are buried over there. Adam v'Chava, Avram and Sarah, Yitzchak v'Rivka, Yaakov v'Leah. And the 4 couples are Adam and Chava, Avram and Sarah, Yitzchak and Yaakov, Yitzchak and Rivka, and Yaakov and Leah. So Iu cover Leah b'didei. So Esav argued as follows: Yaakov, he used up his plot. He buried Leah in his plot. And so the one that remains, that should belong to me. He's already used what he inherited, so to speak, and so I should get the other burial plot. So Amru Lei, so they said to him, Zavinta, what are you talking about? You sold it. Amar Lu, he said to them, granted that I sold my rights to the firstborn, I don't get a double portion, but Pshitusa mi Zavini, but I sell my rights as a regular inheritance, I still should inherit like a regular son. So Amru Lei, they said to him, yes, you sold it away. Like the pasuk says, Bekivri Asher Karisi Li. It talks about the burial plot, Asher Karisi, and what's Karisi mean? What is Yaakov saying? V'yam Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Rabbi Shimon ben Yotzadok. And Rabbi Yochanan said in the name of Rabbi Shimon ben Yotzadok, Ein Kira Elaloshin Mechira. The word Kira over here is a language of sale, and what's being said in this pasuk is that Yaakov bought this plot of land from Esav. And the Gemara explains, Shekein Bekrache Ayam, that in the cities overseas, Karan LeMechira Kira, they refer to Mechira as Kira. But the Gemara continues, Amar Lu, so he said to them, Havali Garta, if that's the case, Esau said, so show me the document that this was sold to you. So Amru Lei, they said to him, Garta Biarad Mitzrayim. This document, the letter is in the land of Mitzrayim. Uman Nazel, so the Gemara said, so they asked, who should go to Mitzrayim and get it? So they said, Nazel Naftali the Kolaki Alosa. So Naftali should go because he's quick like a hind, like the pasuk says. Naftali al Shlucha, Nosen Imre Shafar. Naftali is a doe or is a hind that's let loose, and he speaks good words. And the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Yavo says, Al Tikrei Meshafer, Ela Imre Sefer. Don't read it as Shafer, but read it as Sefer, referring to this document. And the Gemara continues, Chushim Berei de Dan, Tamon Have, Chushim, the son of Dan, he was there. V'yakirin le Udne, and his ears were heavy, meaning to say he was hard of hearing, he couldn't hear. He didn't know what was going on. So Amar Lu, so he said to them, Mai Hai, what's happening over here? V'yamru Le, and they said to him, Kama Akev Hai, this individual, Esav, he's holding us back from burying Yaakov. Adasi Naftali me'ard Mitzrayim. He's holding us back until Naftali comes back from the land of Mitzrayim. Amar Lu, so he said to them, Adasi Naftali me'ard Mitzrayim ye'avi abba mutal bebizayon. But until this Naftali comes back from Mitzrayim, the father of my father has to be staying here in disgrace. And so Shakal kulfa machi areshi. So he took a staff and he hit him on his head, and Nosra Nene, and his eyes popped out. That's referring to Esav's eyes. V'naflu akara di Yaakov, and they fell on the legs of Yaakov. Paschinu Yaakov le'ene, and Yaakov opened up his eyes. V'yachich, and he smiled. V'hainu dichsiv, and that's what the pasuk says. That's what's written in the pasuk. Yismach tzadik yichazer nakam pa'ama v'yirchatz b'dam harasha. The righteous rejoice when he sees the revenge, and his legs he bathes in the blood of the wicked. And the Gemara continues, at that moment, Niskayim Nevuasa Shel Rivka, the prophecy of Rivka was fulfilled. Dichsiv, because it is written, Lama Eshkal Gam Shnechem Yom Echad, why should I be bereaved of both of you, referring to her children Yaakov and Esav on the same day? And the Gemara notes, V'yaf Agav Demisas and Lo B'Yom Echad Havoy, even though they didn't die on the same day, but Kvuras and Mia B'Yom Echad Havoy, but their burial was on the same day. And the Gemara continues, V'lo asak be Yosef echav lo have maski vei. But if Yosef wouldn't have taken care of the bones of his father, would the brothers not have taken care of it? V'aksib, but the pasuk says, Vayisu oso bonav artsa Canaan. It says his children, they all brought him to the land of Canaan. So why is Yosef the one who is rewarded as if he's the one that did it? And so the Gemara answers, Amru, no, they said, Hanichu lo, let him do it. Kevodu b'melachim Yosef b'behedyotas, because it's a greater honor for our father if it's done by kings rather than by commoners. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, Milanu gadol mi Yosef v'chulu, who's greater than Yosef, and who dealt with Yosef's burial? Moshe Rabbeinu. And the Gemara says, Tanu Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, Bo rei kama chavivos mitzvahs al Moshe Rabbeinu. Come and see how beloved the mitzvahs are upon Moshe Rabbeinu. Shekol Yisrael kulon nesasku bebiza, because all of Klal Yisrael was dealing with the spoils of Mitzrayim. V'hu nesasek b'mitzvahs, and he was dealing in this mitzvah. He was dealing with the burial. Shenemar, like the pasuk says, Chacham leiv yikach mitzvahs v'gomer, talks about the wise one who takes mitzvahs. Uminayin ha'yodei Moshe Rabbeinu heichan Yosef cover. And the Gemara asks, how did Moshe Rabbeinu know where Yosef was buried? Amru Serach bas Asher nishtayra meoso ador. They said that Serach bas Asher, Serach the daughter of Asher, she remained from that time, from that generation. She was very old. Halach Moshe etzla. So Moshe went to her. Amar lo, he said to her, Klumat yodas heichan Yosef cover. Do you know where Yosef is buried? Amar lo, she said to him, Aron shel matachas asu lo Mitzrayim. A coffin made out of metal the Egyptians made for him, v'kavu benilos hanar, and they put it in the Nile River, kadesh yisbarchu memav, in order that its waters would be blessed. Halach Moshe v'yaman al sfas Nilo. So Moshe went and he stood on the banks of the Nile River. Amar lo Yosef higio eish shenishba Kodesh Baruch Hu shani go el eschem. He said, Yosef, the time has come that Kodesh Baruch Hu has promised that I would redeem you. V'higia hashvua sheishbatas Yisrael, and now the time has arrived. This oath that you made, that you made for the Jewish people, that they would have to bury you. If you show yourself good, if not, so we are innocent. We don't have to fulfill the oath. We won't have to bury you. Miyad, immediately, Tzaf Arono Shal Yosef, the coffin of Yosef floated up. And the Gemara says, and don't be surprised, how could iron float? Because there's another pasuk where it's written, it says one of them, he dropped the beam, it talks about the iron that fell into the water, and the pasuk continues, the person said, it's borrowed, I need to get this back and return it, how am I going to get it back from the bottom of the water? And then the man of God said, where did it fall? And he showed him the place. Vayiktzaveit said he cut a stick. Vayashlech sham, and he threw it over there. Vayitzef habarzel, and the iron floated up. That was an episode with Elisha, and so you see an episode where the iron was able to float. And the Gemara now comments, Valo dvarim kal v'chomer, and isn't this a kal v'chomer? Uma Elisha talmido shel Eliyahu, ve'Eliyahu talmido shel Moshe. If Elisha, who was a student of Eliyahu, and Eliyahu was a student of Moshe, tzaf barzel mipanav, and the iron was able to float in front of him. Mipnei Moshe Rabbeinu, for Moshe Rabbeinu alachas kama v'kama, most certainly it's possible that the iron would float. And the Gemara continues with another opinion. Rabbi Nosson says, "B'kabarnin shel malachim hayakover." Actually, Yosef was buried in the tombs of the kings. Halach Moshe went v'yaman al kabarnin shel malachim, and he stood by the tomb. Amar, and he said, Yosef higei shenishba Kodesh Baruch Hu shani go el eschem. The time has come that a Kodesh Baruch Hu promised that I'm going to redeem you. V'higia shvua shishbatas Yisrael. The time for your shvua that you made for Klal Yisrael, that time is up. Imatamar atzmecha mutav, if you show yourself good. V'imlav, and if not, hareanu menukan mishvuasech. Again, we are clean from your shvua. We don't have to fulfill the obligation. B'yosha, at that time, this dazeya arono shal Yosef, the casket, the coffin of Yosef shook. Not lo Moshe ve'eviu etzlo. So Moshe took it and he brought it to him. V'chalosan shanim shal Yisrael b'midbar. In all of the years that Klal Yisrael was in the wilderness, hayushnei aronos halala. There were actually two caskets or two arons that were going with them. Echad shal meis, one was the aron again of the dead body of Yosef. Ve'echad shal shchina, and one was the aron that would be the aron of the shchina. Mahalchin zem zem, they were walking together with one another. Vayovrim v'shavim omer, and people who would pass by would say, Mativon shal shnei aronos halala. What is the nature of these two aronos? Amru, they said, Echad shal meis ve'echad shal shchina. One is of a dead body and one is the shchina. Is it the way of a mace to go with the shchina? Amru, they said, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Yud Gimel Amud Beis.